Hey kids, this is Mr. Sam. Not sure if you remember me from a month or so ago when you were actually in class. So I'm come to you today to read a book for Miss Kirk's fourth grade class. So we brought a book today, and the book is called Grace for President, and that book is by Kelly DiPuccio. So we're going to read the book, and then we're going to discuss a couple of little things after. There's some exercises that you can do after we've completed the reading. So I'm going to get started. And again, the name of the book is called Grace for President. Hopefully you've got a copy. If not, you can just I can show you pictures. That's the front of the book, Grace for President. So we'll get started, okay? Got pictures of different presidents inside the front cover. You can maybe try and look them up and see which presidents those are the pictures of if you like. Okay, here we go. Grace for President. One Monday morning in September, Miss Barrington rolled out a big poster with all of the president's pictures on it. Grace Campbell could not believe her eyes. Where are the girls? No girls for president. That is a very good question, said Miss Barrington. The truth is, our country has never had a woman president. No girl president ever? Grace asked. No, I'm afraid not, said Miss Barrington. Grace sat at her desk and stewed. No girls? Who ever heard of such a crazy thing? Finally, she raised her hand. Yes, Grace, I've been thinking it over, and I'd like to be president. Several students in the class laughed. Well, I think that's a star-spangled idea, Grace, said Miss Barrington. In fact, we can have our own election right here at Woodrow Wilson Elementary. The snickering in the room stopped, and Grace smiled. Would anyone else like to run for president? Miss Barrington asked the class, and nobody raised their hand. Becoming president was going to be easy, Grace thought. There's Grace, raising her hand. The next day, Miss Barrington made an announcement. In the name of democracy, I have invited Mr. Waller's class to join our election. Their class has nominated Thomas Cobb to be their presidential candidate. Grace's heart sank. Thomas was the school spelling bee champion. His experience always took a blue ribbon at the science fair, and he was captain of the soccer team. Becoming president wasn't going to be easy after all, Grace thought. That's Thomas Cobb right there, in case you're wondering. The teachers put the names of all 50 states and the District of Columbia into a hat. Everyone except for Grace and Thomas got to choose a state. I'm Texas, said Anthony. I'm New Hampshire, said Rose. I'm Michigan, said Robbie. What does the number 17 mean? Each state is assigned a number of electoral votes. That number is determined by how many people live in that state, said Miss Barrington. Each of you will be a representative for your state. Altogether, our country has 538 electoral votes, Mr. Waller explained. On election day, the candidate who receives 270 electoral votes or more wins the election. Why 270? Asked Rose. That's more than half of all the electoral votes, Mr. Waller said. Becoming president really wasn't going to be easy, Grace thought. So there's the numbers in the hat, and there's the map of the whole 50 states. Grace came up with a campaign slogan. Thomas came up with his own campaign slogan. Grace listened to what issues were important to the students, and she made a list of campaign promises. Thomas made up his own list of promises. Grace made campaign posters and buttons. Thomas made posters and buttons too. So that shows their posters and their list of promises. Probably can't see those very well, but there they are. Each week, the teachers set aside time for the candidates to meet with their constituents. Polls were taken. Voters were making their choices. Grace continued to campaign. At recess, she gave speeches. During lunch, she handed out free cupcakes. After school, she held rallies. Meanwhile, Thomas wasn't worried. He had cleverly calculated that the boys held slightly more electoral votes than the girls. At recess, Thomas studied his spelling words. During lunch, he worked on his latest science experiment. After school, he played soccer. Even before the election, Grace made good on her promises. She joined the safety squad. She organized the school beautification committee. She volunteered her time in the school cafeteria. There's all her buttons and slogans. In early November, Woodrow Wilson Elementary hosted a special election assembly. Grace and Thomas took their places on stage as the school band began to play. Henry was first representative to approach the microphone. The Yellowhammer State of Alabama cast its 9 electoral votes for Thomas Cobb. Fletcher said the last frontier state of Alaska cast its 3 electoral votes for the best man on the job, Thomas Cobb. The Grand Canyon state of Arizona cast its 10 electoral votes for Grace Campbell, Hannah called out. And so it went. State after state after state cast their electoral votes. The scoreboard in the gymnasium kept track of the totals. The voting demonstration was quickly coming to an end. Clara approached the podium. The Badger State of Wisconsin cast its 10 votes for my best friend, Grace Campbell. Grace looked at the scoreboard. Thomas had 268 electoral votes. She had 267. There was only one state still unaccounted for. Wyoming. The big state of Wyoming. Thomas grinned. Grace felt sick. Sam walked up to the microphone. He looked at Thomas. He looked at Grace. He looked down at Grace's handmade flag. Sam didn't say a word. What are you waiting for? Thomas whispered. The band stopped playing. All eyes were on Wyoming. Finally, Sam cleared his throat. The equality state of Wyoming cast its 3 electoral votes for, drum roll, Grace Campbell. The gymnasium erupted in loud cheers and a few boos. Mrs. Barrington approached the podium. With 270 electoral votes, the winner is Grace Campbell. Thomas looked stunned. Grace hugged Sam. Why did you do it? She asked. Sam handed Grace his flag because he said, I thought you were the best person for the job. The following week, the students in Mrs. Barrington's class were preparing for their career day presentations. Grace volunteered to go first. She stood at the front of the room and glanced at the poster still hanging on the wall. My name is Grace Campbell, and when I grow up, I'm going to be President of the United States. This time, everyone believed she would. The end. So it shows Grace taking the oath of office of being President of the United States. And her face on Mount Rushmore. in South Dakota. So that's the end of the book. Now, you should have or see a brochure that explains a little bit about the book and what Grace wants to. There's some assignments on the back of the brochure, and in the center of the brochure there are some questions and things that you can fill out as an exercise. Why did these, like the name of the candidate, you could put your name in there, and you could run for president as well. So hope you've enjoyed the reading. My name is Mr. Sam, and hopefully I'll get to see you all in person next year. Bye.